Welcome to The World in Social. I'm Chris Rieger with your look at the week in social media news. Thanks to our podcast partner, Social News Desk, powering social media for over 1,500 newsrooms on 5 continents. Find out more at socialnewsdesk.com. Coming up in this edition, another 1 million Aussies on Facebook. Microsoft pulled the pin on social. The new social platform promising no ads. Twitter introduces new analytics for Moments. The Hit Network celebrates International Women's Day with a Facebook live stream. And later in the podcast, I'm joined by my special guest this week, Jack Bowie, online content manager for Grant Broadcasters in Victoria and South Australia. We'll find out how she built a successful business out of MySpace and what it's like looking after online content for 15 radio stations across 2 states. But first, another 1 million Australians have jumped on Facebook in February, according to the latest data from socialmedianews.com.au. That's roughly 7 in 10 of us, a huge figure. Worldwide, the service now has 1.86 billion monthly active users, of which 1.23 billion are daily active users. There are also 600 million monthly active users on Instagram. 1 in 2 Australians use YouTube, 1 in 5 use Instagram, and 1 in 6 use Snapchat. WhatsApp now has 3,100,000 active Australian users. That's a 30% increase since 2015. It's also interesting to note Twitter has experienced stagnant user growth over the last 2 years and has a considerable churn rate of new users signing up, but then never using the service. Microsoft has decided to pull the pin on its social network project, Social. What's that? You've never heard of it? You're not alone. The service was launched back in 2011 and was more of an app for Facebook than a challenge to it. The idea was for users to create, collect and share stuff they love, like cats, in rich visual collages, short animated media or quick posts. Originally, posts on social were public by default, but an update in August 2014 allowed users to set the visibility. In a statement, the team says, social has been a wonderful outlet for creative expression, as well as a place to enjoy a supportive community of like-minded people, sharing and learning together. In supporting you, social's unique community of creators, we have learned invaluable lessons in what it takes to establish and maintain community, as well as introduce novel new ways to make, share and collect digital stuff we love. Through you, we've been able to introduce many interesting ideas. What's that John Farnham song? Seemed like a good idea at the time. For those who are looking for a social platform with no ads, Vero True Social may be just the thing you're looking for. Founded by billionaire businessman Ayman Hariri, it will instead be paid for by subscription for an annual price of a couple of cups of coffee. At the moment, the app is in beta form and currently free to the first 1 million people who download it. Hariri says he's not anti-advertising, but he does think there's a time and place for it, like magazines. In order to deliver hyper-targeted ads, the likes of Facebook, Twitter and Instagram need to collect as much data on their users as possible, and that's where he sees the gap. He told CNBC.com they don't use algorithms and they don't want your big data. The website states that it differs from other applications by allowing users to categorise their followers, choosing which content to share with whom with a swipe of a button. The app, available for Android and iPhone, is big on music sharing and last November announced an exclusive collaboration with Charli XCX. While there's no paid advertising within the app, companies are able to create profiles and influencers will be allowed to promote brands as they do on other social networks. It's definitely worth taking a look at. Authorities have warned a group of young Sydney thrill seekers to come forward before they track them down. Risking their lives, the young men and women have been scaling bridges and buildings, illegally riding trains and trams, all for pictures and videos posted to social media accounts.
The footage and the pictures depict persons engaged in extremely risky behaviour that is not only dangerous but illegal. To those persons involved, my advice is come and see us before we knock on your door.
That's New South Wales Transport Command Superintendent Paul Devaney speaking to 7 News Sydney there. Twitter Moments now features its own analytics. The tool will allow users to track how well their content is working through details on opens, likes, shares and more. If you're not familiar with Moments, it works a little bit like Snapchat Stories or Facebook Messenger's Add to Your Day, where you're giving followers and friends quick pieces of content. Instead of images, a collection of tweets tell a story. The The Hit Network celebrated International Women's Day with a national breakfast show this week featuring an all-star female lineup. Anchored by Fox FM's Fifi Box and Today FM's M. Rusciano, the show featured the network's Abby Coleman, Heidi Anderson, Kat Lynch, Ash London, Carrie Bickmore, Sam Frost and Constance Hall, as well as UN Women Goodwill Ambassador Nicole Kidman. The broadcast was also streamed live through Facebook. It resulted in over 142,000 views on Facebook. It also went out live via Periscope and Twitter, with a combined reach of well over 500,000 people across both platforms.
I am the woman I am today purely and only because of my mum. My mum is an amazing woman who is the strongest, most resilient, toughest female I've ever come across, and from a very early age she instilled a belief in myself that, to be honest, if I hadn't had, I don't know where I'd be today, because in this world where young girls are growing up, the proliferation of magazines and online and social and Instagram models and bikini selfies, I think it's so difficult for a young woman and a girl to understand and realise their place in life is because of who they are, and the essence of who they are is their intelligence and their self-belief. And self-belief to me is critical because my mum always made me believe in myself, and if I hadn't believed in myself, I wouldn't be here today, and I don't know where I'd be.
That audio thanks to Southern Cross Austereo's Hit Network.
The World in Social, thanks to Social News Desk, powering social media for over 1,500 newsrooms on 5 continents. Find out more at socialnewsdesk.com.
Joining me now on The World in Social is online content manager for Grant Broadcasters radio stations in Victoria and South Australia, Jack Bowie. Welcome to The World in Social.
Thank you. I'm very excited.
Now tell me, how did you first get involved with social media? Where did it all start?
Look, in the early days, to be honest, way before going into radio, I had another business called Jack Bowie PR and Events, and that stemmed from an idea I had about putting on burlesque shows. And I was a single mother with no money, and I had a baby that was sleeping a lot, and all I had was a computer and MySpace. So I was a very early adopter with MySpace, and I basically built a business that went on to become a very big business off the back of MySpace. So I sort of cultivated an audience first. I befriended all the burlesque girls and all the people that were interested in burlesque, and I put a lot of effort into my page and what song that I chose was playing and who my top friends were. And
We've come a long way since MySpace.
We have come a long way.
When you think about it, haven't we?
We have come a long way. But look, I think professionally that would be definitely a turning point for me in where I sort of thought, okay, I don't have any money to start up something. I don't have any money for advertising, but I really liked MySpace, so I started out there. Well,
I guess at the time it was kind of like, it was a good outlet for creative people, wasn't it?
Definitely, yeah. And it was like my portfolio, you know, I'd always have sort of the Vargas pin-ups and the vintage wallpapers and whatnot, and as I said, the top 10, you know, I was very selective when it came to that. And
I think at last look, there were still about 80,000 active users in Australia on MySpace.
Well, I'm not one of them.
There's still some people out there on it.
Yeah.
But as I said, we have moved on a little bit from it.
Yeah.
So you're quite busy these days looking after, 15 radio stations across Victoria, South Australia?
So across, We've got the following, I'll point over here to our zones. We've got obviously Geelong, where we are right now. We've got Ballarat, Central Victoria, for Bendigo, Mildura, Murray Bridge, Riverland, Spencer Gulf and Port Lincoln.
So it takes in a wide area. Now talk us through your day. How does it all work?
Big picture stuff is kind of coming up with a strategy to get everyone on board with digital, whether that's announcers, whether that's sales, whether that's promotions, integrating digital into every part of our business. And I certainly had my work cut out for me here. My predecessor was more on the sort of graphic design sort of aspect, whereas I've come from absolutely KPIs, blogging stats, analytics. So I've come at it with a really different angle and given everyone the shock of their life, really. So my day is, putting out fires. But no, just I guess really just trying to get everyone on the same page. So, I've only been here since November. I'd like to be at a point where in March that all the announcers understand how to do a good, decent blog, how to copy, what copyright is, and how to credit pictures accordingly. But then eventually, get further and further into it and advance those skills step by step.
I imagine you're probably doing a little bit more coaching with on-air talent in terms of, what is classified as good content and what isn't. I came across a site just recently called Shit Social Radio.
Yeah, it's great.
Shit Social Media in Radio. So have you had a little bit of work to do there with sort of getting announcers in the frame of mind of posting stuff that is relevant to target demographics and that kind of thing?
Definitely. I mean, it seems to be not an issue on air when it comes to understanding their brand and their audience, and they have a sort of perfect audience member in their head. But definitely applying that online is an issue. We've got varying levels depending on the backgrounds and the skill sets of the announcers, but my aim is to at least get a level of consistency or an area to sort of start on.
Yep.
But yeah, I guess it's more a fact of, you've got this great piece of content, take a step back and just start thinking about how we can leverage it further. How, there's going to be people that want to read the long form version of it on the website. There's going to be people that are reading it while they're waiting for a friend outside of a cafe and have 2 seconds and see it on social. So, the fact that content is so rich and in our faces everywhere, we want to be as many places as possible.
Yeah, it's really, how do you find that cut through in such a crowded market?
Well, yes, I think you have to go back to basics, look at your analytics and go, where is that perfect audience member hanging out? That's the first step. For a lot of stations, they might be spending way too much effort on Facebook when, in fact, if you look at analytics, possibly 70% of the audience are coming from Google, or, the Facebook percentage might be very small. So we're constantly looking at analytics on a daily and weekly level. Daily, of course, to sort of look at how we did yesterday and specific promotions and things like that. But in terms of weekly and planning, I mean, it's pivotal to everything that I do and how we make decisions.
I just recently, K-Rock did a big promotion called The Wedding, and I noticed that there was a lot of online activity with that. So that obviously kept everyone busy over that period. How did that all go?
It was good. I mean, we had a little hiccup with the Facebook live stream stopping and starting, and that was unfortunate. Facebook Live is really difficult in that, if you lose a feed, you've got to go and you've got to do a new URL.
It was a bit of a difficult area too, because it was at a winery sort of,
There's no Wi-Fi at the property. The service wasn't that good. But look, I think at the end of the day, everyone came together. The finished product is stunning in terms of the edited footage and
which I noticed you got up online pretty quick after the event, so that was all there for everyone to check out. So
So I stayed back and I answered 200 comments and told them that the footage was coming, and that's part of the gig. But yes, we certainly had to adapt and change a few things. The original plan was we'd have a pop up with the live stream straight away on the homepage, and we were ready to go. But once you lose that first URL, it's tricky. So I think from an on-air perspective, fantastic promotion from on the ground. Fantastic promotion, did amazingly well. I think the lessons that we learned out of it is probably to look at Facebook Live for when it's such a big video stream and such a big event. It needs to be treated like an OB. There needs to be concise run sheets. There needs to be a dedicated person sitting there on the Facebook page answering during the live stream. I mean, there's so much that you don't think about.
Exactly.
You think you're prepared, but so it was a great opportunity for us to kind of develop a new process when it came to Facebook.
One thing I did notice was, I assume it was you, very active in talking to people when they were sort of saying, live stream's cutting out in and out, so you were there answering people's questions. How do you go with moderation in general? Do you find you have to do a lot of it? I had someone recently sort of say, you don't want people sort of coming in and essentially trashing the shop window, so to speak, and trashing your brand. Do you sort of get many cases where you get trolls coming in and out
Look, to be honest, the whole sort of station responding to every single message is not something that's across the states yet. Part of my role has been to introduce social media managers at each station. That's only just started. And they're still sort of in training and taking that over. So the eventual aim will be that there will be one person who, whilst we want to encourage all the announcers to respond to things relating to their show and their content, there'll be this one person that creates an overall station
kind of
voice. Yeah. So they'll have additional training when it comes to dealing with those sort of situations. I know that the moderation settings on the page are put in a way that, if certain swear words are there or whatever.
Kind of does a lot of it for you.
It does a lot of it for you. However, I literally 2 days ago turned back on Facebook comments on all of our sites in our state. I don't know why they were off, but they're now back on. And when I asked why they were off, I got a few kind of, maybe that's because people were saying horrible things, and I just thought, so what? Good.
Yeah. Well, I know.
Let's drum up a heated discussion.
I was talking to Brendan Wood from 7 News in Sydney last weekend. He said they sort of make a policy where they never delete. They might hide stuff that could be sort of offensive, or might be having a dig at someone personally or something like that. But they sort of make a policy of never deleting stuff. Which, so I guess you kind of want people to get involved in a discussion.
I think that we're further along now, that if people are seeing comments, it's common sense to us that that's someone having their own say and their own opinion. It's certainly not presented in a way that that's the station's opinion. And I just believe that the more engagement and the more conversations and the more time they're doing a Facebook comment and posting it on their page, excellent. That's a win for me.
It's all about engagement, isn't it?
Exactly.
You want those engagement numbers up.
Exactly. And look, and at the end of the day, everyone's entitled to their opinion.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Future of social media, where do you see it all going?
Oh, that's a tough one, isn't it?
Obviously, we're sort of seeing, with Facebook, a lot more video, so obviously that's sort of where that's going.
I think Facebook Live is something that we really need to, take on board and start being really smart and really organised and plan, and, as I said, turn it into an outside, and look at it as an outside broadcast. It's something that 2 weeks before there needs to be a meeting where, what are we doing? What are we doing for the pre-promotion? Who's on deck doing the technical side of it? What if something goes wrong? How do we deal with it? Definitely taking it more seriously. I know that Facebook have a preference for that kind of content in their newsfeed, so particularly for the younger demographic stations like K-Rock, we need to be all over that because that's where they're hanging out. So the more, I probably put 2 to 3 hours a week to finding better systems and researching trends and things like that, and it's absolutely imperative when it comes to the younger demo stations for us.
And that's all for this edition of The World in Social. You'll find all these stories and more on the website, theworldinsocial.com. I'm Chris Rieger. Join me next week as we explore the world in social, thanks to Social News Desk, powering social media for over 1,500 newsrooms on 5 continents. You can find out more at socialnewsdesk.com.